Welcome to the deep dive.
Oh.
Today, we're going to be tackling, I guess you could say, a topic that's a bit of a brain teaser.
Oh.
Scholarly impact.
All right.
You hear universities, touting it, academics chasing it. But what does it really mean? And luckily, I've got an expert here with me to help us unpack this often nebulous concept.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah.
And one that's increasingly important in the academic world. Impact can feel like this
Right.
vague, almost mystical goal.
Yeah.
But the reality is far more nuanced.
Exactly. Like Merriam-Webster defines impact as
Right.
a significant or major effect.
Yeah.
But that doesn't exactly give us a clear roadmap, right?
Right. It used to be that scholarly impact was mostly measured by citations,
Uh-huh.
how much other academics were referencing your work.
Okay.
But that's like judging a fish solely on its ability to climb a tree.
Uh-huh. Love the analogy.
Yeah.
So what's a more holistic way to look at impact then?
Well, imagine a brilliant researcher hidden away in their lab, producing groundbreaking work that never actually sees the light of day.
Okay.
So lots of citations maybe, but zero impact on the real world.
Okay, so citations alone don't cut it.
Right.
What's missing?
The bigger picture. We need to think about impact across multiple dimensions.
Right.
Not just on other researchers, but on students, organizations, and even society as a whole.
So it's not just about academics talking amongst themselves.
Yeah.
It's about scholarship that actually makes a difference outside the ivory tower.
Exactly. We need to consider the ripple effect of scholarly work and who it's reaching.
Okay, I'm getting the picture.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about multiple dimensions of impact, how do we even begin to measure that?
That's where things get interesting. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation.
Right.
Each dimension has its own unique stakeholders
Yeah.
and requires tailored approaches.
Can you give us an example?
Think about it this way.
Okay.
A highly cited researcher might be making waves in the world of theory, but are they influencing teaching practices in the classroom
Right.
or shaping policies that impact communities?
Okay.
These are separate but equally important dimensions of impact.
Right. It's like assuming a world-class sprinter would automatically dominate a chess tournament.
Exactly.
Different skill sets.
Yeah.
Different arenas.
Totally.
So where do we go from here? How do we actually enhance scholarly impact considering all these different dimensions?
That's a great question, and one that requires us to look at the key players involved.
Okay.
Let's start with university administrators.
Okay.
They have a huge role in creating an environment that either fosters or hinders impactful scholarship.
Okay, let's dive into that.
Yeah.
What can administrators actually do to encourage this kind of multidimensional impact?
Well, first and foremost, it's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Okay.
Universities need to align their goals, actions, and resources to support the kind of impact they claim to value.
Right.
For example, if a university says they prioritize research that benefits society. Right.
But then they don't give their researchers the time or resources
Yeah.
to actually engage with communities or translate their findings into practical applications. There's a disconnect.
Right. It's like saying you value teaching, but then burying your professors under a mountain of administrative work, leaving them no time to actually, teach.
Exactly. It's about putting your money where your mouth is.
Right.
Another crucial aspect is performance management.
Okay.
Instead of just rewarding faculty for publications in prestigious journals, universities need to recognize and reward contributions across all four impact dimensions.
So we're talking about acknowledging the impact of that amazing professor who might not be publishing groundbreaking research, but is inspiring hundreds of students every semester.
Precisely. We need to value diverse forms of scholarship
Okay.
and acknowledge that impact can manifest in many different ways.
Right.
Now, this brings us to a topic that can get a little thorny.
Oh.
The role of journal rankings.
Yes. The infamous A journals.
I have a feeling this is where things get interesting.
It is. While these top-tier journals can be beneficial in upholding certain standards and ensuring fairness,
Right.
they also create immense pressure on researchers to publish or perish.
Yeah.
This can sometimes stifle innovation and discourage research that tackles real-world problems faced by organizations and society, which may not get published in those top journals.
So focusing solely on these prestigious publications might actually be hindering the very impact universities claim to want.
It's definitely something to consider.
Okay.
And it's not just about journalists. Doctoral programs are another critical piece of the puzzle.
Right. We need to train the next generation of scholars to think about impact broadly,
Absolutely.
not just in terms of publications.
Instead of just churning out publications, doctoral programs should focus on cultivating future leaders and practitioners
Yeah.
who can actually translate research into real-world solutions.
So not just focusing on the research itself, but making sure that we have capable hands to carry the torch of impactful scholarship forward.
Like a relay race.
Exactly. Passing on the knowledge
Yeah.
to those who can apply it in the real world.
Right.
But speaking of the real world, how can universities do a better job of bridging the gap between academia and practical application?
That's a great question, and one we'll delve into in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll explore ideas like partnerships with organizations, faculty consulting, and encouraging sabbaticals in industry setting.
Right.
All ways to get scholars out of their comfort zones and engaging with the world beyond academia.
I like it.
But before we move on, I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Okay, I'm ready. Lay it on me.
Thinking about your own experiences, either as a student or someone who interacts with academic work, what kind of scholarly impact resonates most with you?
Okay.
What would you like to see more of from the academic world?
That's a great question. Honestly, I've always been drawn to research that tackles real-world challenges. The kind of scholarship that helps us understand and address the complex issues facing our society.
I think a lot of people share that sentiment.
Yeah.
People crave knowledge that's not just intellectually stimulating,
Right.
but also relevant to their lives and the world around them.
Absolutely. And I think that's a perfect segue to the next part of our deep dive,
Okay.
where we'll explore how individual researchers can embrace this multidimensional view of impact and ensure their work makes a real difference. But for now, we'll take a short break. Stay tuned.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Before the break, we were discussing how universities can foster a culture of multidimensional impact.
Right.
But now let's zoom in on the individual scholars,
Okay.
the researchers and educators who are the driving force behind impactful work.
It's a crucial shift in perspective.
Yeah.
We often think about impact from the institutional level, but ultimately it's the choices and actions of individual scholars that truly make a difference.
So how can researchers take ownership of their impact and ensure their work reaches beyond the confines of academia?
One powerful tool is creating a personal impact plan.
A personal impact plan. Tell me more.
Imagine having a blueprint for your academic career.
Okay.
But instead of just focusing on publications and grants,
Right.
you define what impact means to you.
Okay.
Maybe it's influencing policy, shaping young minds through teaching, or bridging the gap between research and practice.
So it's like setting intentions, but for your scholarship.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah,
It brings to mind Stephen Covey's famous advice to begin with the end in mind.
exactly. Having a clear vision of your desired impact
Right.
can guide your research choices, teaching methods,
Mm-hmm.
and even how you engage with the wider community.
Right.
Of course, this all starts with a foundation of high-quality, rigorous research.
Right, because you can't exactly change the world with flawed data and questionable research practices.
Absolutely. Impact begins with integrity
Yes.
and a commitment to producing valid and reliable research. Okay.
Now, when we talk about researchers taking ownership of their impact, the concept of the academic decathlete comes to mind.
Okay, you're going to have to explain that one.
Okay.
I'm picturing a professor juggling a packed lecture hall, writing a groundbreaking research paper, A&D mentoring a group of enthusiastic students,
Okay.
all while maintaining a perfect score on Rate My Professor. Is that what we're talking about?
You're envisioning a scholarly superhero.
Yeah.
While that image is entertaining,
Right.
the academic decathlete is more about recognizing that you don't have to be a master of everything.
Okay.
It's about leveraging your unique strengths
Right.
to make a difference in multiple ways. Maybe you're a brilliant researcher and an inspiring mentor.
Okay.
The idea is to use those strengths intentionally
Right.
to create impact across different dimensions.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's about embracing a more holistic and multifaceted approach to academic life.
Exactly. And it's also about recognizing that impactful scholarship is rarely a solo endeavor. Okay.
Collaboration is key.
So teamwork makes the dream work, even in academia.
Absolutely. Researchers can achieve greater impact by working together and leveraging each other's strengths.
Okay.
For example, collaborating on bridging articles that are accessible to both academics and practitioners
Okay.
can extend the reach of research beyond the ivory tower.
Right.
Or co-authoring engaging textbooks that blend cutting-edge research with real-world examples
Okay.
can impact a new generation of students.
So it's about breaking down those silos between academia and the real world.
Exactly. We need more scholars who can successfully bridge that gap and make their work relevant and accessible to a wider audience.
And speaking of reaching a wider audience, we can't forget the power of social media in amplifying impact.
Absolutely. Platforms like LinkedIn and Twitter allow researchers to connect with practitioners, policymakers, and the general public in ways that were never possible before.
Right.
It's like taking your research out of the dusty library stacks and into the bustling marketplace of ideas.
I love that analogy. So to recap, individual scholars can enhance their impact by crafting personal impact plans, embracing their strengths as academic decathletes, collaborating to bridge the gap between research and practice, and leveraging social media to connect with wider audiences.
It's a great summary.
Yeah.
It's about being intentional, strategic, and collaborative in your approach to scholarship.
This has been incredibly insightful, but before we wrap up, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on one more thing.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about impact within specific disciplines and institutions.
Right.
But what about the global context? How does this all fit into the larger landscape of scholarly impact worldwide?
That's a fantastic question, and one that highlights the growing global emphasis on impactful scholarship.
Okay.
If we look at the mission statements of leading universities worldwide, from Oxford and Yale to Peking University, there's a common thread. A commitment to producing scholarship that benefits society on a global scale.
Wow, so this multidimensional model of impact isn't just a theoretical framework. It's actually being embraced by institutions around the world.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of this model. It's flexibility.
Okay.
It can be adapted to different contexts and priorities, whether you're at a research-intensive university or a teaching-focused college.
It sounds like the key takeaway here is that scholarly impact is a multifaceted and evolving concept.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's about ensuring that knowledge generated in academia reaches the people who can benefit from it,
Right.
both locally and globally.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
It's about making a difference, improving lives, and shaping a brighter future through the power of knowledge and scholarship.
That's an inspiring thought to end on. A huge thank you to our expert for guiding us through this complex and fascinating world. And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has sparked some new ideas and inspired you to think about the kind of impact you want to make in the world. Until next time, keep diving deep. Welcome back to the Deep Dive.
We've been, kind of exploring this multidimensional world of scholarly impact from, the university level all the way down to like the actions of, individual researchers. But before we wrap up, I kind of wanted to touch on something that you had mentioned earlier.
Okay.
And that's the global nature of this whole movement towards impactful scholarship.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
This emphasis on impact. It's not just a trend in, a few isolated pockets of academia.
Right.
It's truly a global phenomenon.
Yeah.
Leading universities worldwide, from Oxford and Yale to Peking University, all share this commitment to producing scholarship that benefits society on a broader scale. So this multidimensional model that we've been talking about, it's not just a theoretical framework. It's actually being embraced by institutions around the world.
Exactly. And that speaks to the adaptability of this model.
Okay.
It can be tailored to different contexts and priorities.
Right.
Whether you're at a research-intensive university focused on, groundbreaking discoveries or a teaching-focused college dedicated to shaping young minds.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's about, finding the right balance, I guess,
Right.
for your institution and your individual goals as a scholar.
Absolutely.
But before we let you go, I just have one final question.
Okay.
What does this all mean for our listeners?
Yeah.
Why should they care about this whole scholarly impact thing?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think the answer is simple.
Ew.
Impact is about making a difference.
Okay.
It's about ensuring that the knowledge that we generate in academia doesn't just, stay within the confines of journals and classrooms.
Right.
It's about ensuring that knowledge reaches the people who can benefit from it, whether they're students, researchers, practitioners, or simply curious citizens.
So it's about using scholarship to solve problems improve lives, and shape a brighter future.
Precisely. It's about harnessing the power of ideas to make the world a better place.
Wow, that's a powerful message. I have to say, this deep dive has been incredibly eye-opening.
Good.
I feel like I have a much deeper understanding of, what it means to make a difference through scholarship,
Yeah,
both within academia and in the wider world.
that's great to hear.
Yeah. Well, big thank you to our expert for
Yeah.
sharing their expertise and guiding us through this complex world.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has inspired you to think about the kind of scholarly impact you want to make.
Yeah.
Whether you're a student, a researcher, or simply a lifelong learner, we encourage you to continue exploring this idea and, find ways to make your own unique contribution to the world. Until next time, keep diving deep.